Lord Chesterfield's letters to his son. London, October 16th, 1747. Dear boy, the art of pleasing is a very necessary one to possess, but a very difficult one to acquire. It can hardly be reduced to rules, and your own good sense and observation will teach you more of it than I can. Do as you would be done by, as the surest method as I know of pleasing. Observe carefully what pleases you in others, and probably the same things in you will please others. If you are pleased with the complacence and attention of others to your humors, your tastes, and your weaknesses depend on upon it. The same complacence and attention on your part to others will equally please them. Take the tone of the company that you are in, and do not pretend to give it. Be serious, gay, or even trifling, as you will find the present humor of the company. This is an attention due from every individual to the majority. Do not tell stories in company. There is nothing more tedious and disagreeable. If by chance you know a very short story and exceedingly applicable to the present subject of conversation, tell it as few words as possible, and even then throw out that you do not love to tell stories, but that the shortness of it tempted you. Of all things, banish the egotism out of your conversation, and never think of entertaining people with your own personal concerns or private affairs. Though they are interesting to you, they are tedious and impertinent to everybody else. Besides that, one cannot keep one's own private affairs too secret. Whatever you think your own excellencies may be, do not affectionately display them in company, nor labor, as many people do, to give that turn to the conversation which may supply you with an opportunity of exhibiting them. If they are real, they will infallibly be discovered without your pointing them out yourself, and with much more advantage. Never maintain the argument with heat and clamor, though you think or know yourself to be in the right, but give your opinion modestly and coolly, which is the only way to convince. And if that does not do, try to change the conversation by saying with good humor, "We shall hardly convince one another, nor it is necessary that we should, so let us talk of something else." Remember that there is a local propriety to be observed in all companies, and that what is extremely proper in one company may be, and often is, highly improper in another. The jokes, the bon mot, and the little adventures which may do very well in one company will seem flat and tedious when related in another. The particular characters, the habits that can't of one company may give merit to a word or a gesture which would have none at all if divested of those accidental circumstances. Here people very commonly air and fond of something that has entertained them in one company, and in certain circumstances repeat it with emphasis in another, where it is either insipid or it may be offensive by being ill-timed or misplaced. Nay, they often do it with the silly preamble, "I will tell you an excellent thing," or "I will tell you the best thing in the world." This raises expectations which then absolutely disappointed make the realtor of this excellent thing look very deservedly like a fool. If you would particularly gain the affection and the friendship of particular people, whether men or women, endeavor to find out their predominant excellency, if they have one, and their prevailing weaknesses, which everybody has, and do justice to the one and something more than justice to the other. Men have various objects in which they may excel, or at least would be thought to excel, and though they love to hear justice is done to them where they know that they excel, yet they are most and best flattered upon those points which they wish to excel, and you are doubtful whether they do or not. As for example, Cardinal Richelieu, who was undoubtedly the ablest statesman of his time, or perhaps of any other, had the idle vanity of being thought the best poet too. He envied the great Corneille his reputation and ordered a criticism to be written upon the Cid. Those therefore who flattered skillfully said little to him of his abilities to state affairs, or at best but en passant, and as it might naturally occur, but the increase with which they gave him the smoke of which they knew would turn his head in another favor, and as bel esprit and a poet. Why? Because he was sure of one excellency and distrustful to the other. You will easily discover every man's prevailing vanity by observing his favorite topic of conversation, for every man talks most of what he has most in mind to be thought to excel in. Touch him but there, and you will touch him to the quick. The late Sir Robert Walpole, who was certainly an able man, was little upon the flattery upon that head, for he was no doubt himself about it, but his prevailing weakness was to be thought to have a polite and happy turn to gallantry, of which he has undoubtedly less than any man giving. It was his favorite and frequent subject of conversation, which proved to be those who had any penetration that it was his prevailing weakness, and they applied it to that to it with success. Women have in general but one object, which is their beauty. Let me start that again. Women have in general but one object, which is their beauty, upon which scarce any flattery is too gross for them to follow. Nature has hardly formed a woman ugly enough to be insensible to flattery upon her person. If her face is so shocking, and she must in some degree be conscious of it, her figure and her air, she trusts, makes ample amends for it. If her figure is deformed, her face, she thinks, this counterbalances it. If they are both bad, she comforts herself that she has graces, a certain manner, a joie de joie, je ne sais quoi, je ne sais quoi. Still more engaging than beauty. This truth is evident from the studied and elaborate dress of the ugliest woman in the world. An undoubted, uncontested consensus, an uncontested conscious beauty is, of all women, the least sensible of flattery upon that head. She knows it. She knows that it is her due, and it is therefore obliged to nobody for giving it to her. She must be flattered upon her understanding, which, though she may possibly not doubt of herself, yet she suspects that men may distrust. Do not mistake me and think that I mean to recommend to you abject and criminal flattery. No, flatter nobody's vices or crimes. On the contrary, abhor and discourage them. But there is no living in the world without a complacent indulgence for people's weaknesses and innocent, though ridiculous, vanities. If a man has a mind to be thought wiser and a woman handsomer than they really are, their error is a comfortable one in themselves, and an innocent one with regards to other people, and I would rather make them my friends by indulging them in it than by my enemies by endeavoring, and that is that to be no purpose, to undeceive them. There are little attentions likewise which are infinitely engaging, and which sensibly affect that degree of pride and self love which is inseparable from human nature, as they are unquestionably proofs of the regard and consideration which we have for the persons to which we pay them. As, for example, to observe the little habits, the likings, and antipathies, and the tastes of those whom we would gain, and then take care to provide them with the one to secure them from the other, giving them gently to understand that you had observed them like such a dish or such a room for which reason you had prepared it, or on the contrary, that having observed they had an aversion to such a dish, a dislike to such a person, etc., and you take care to avoid presenting them. Such attention to such trifles flatters self-love much more than greater things, as it makes people think themselves almost the only objects of your thoughts and cares. These are some of the arcana necessary for your initiation in the great society of the world. I wish I had known them better at your age. I have paid the price of 53 years for them, and shall not judge it if you reap the advantage. Adieu.